Continuing with the theme of prayer from last two Sundays, today's gospel focuses on when we pray, what kind of attitude we need to embrace. Our prayer with humility, begging God for mercy. I know you all know the Gospels pretty well, right? So 2 Sundays ago, Jesus talks about prayer in the Gospel. But what kind of prayer was he talking about 2 Sundays ago? I know you're all good Catholics coming to every Sunday. Yeah, this is the 3rd Sunday Jesus talks about prayer. So I'm asking, 2 Sundays ago, 14 days ago, Jesus talks about prayer. But what kind of prayer? There were some 10 lepers. Jesus healed them. One came back. Prayer of thanksgiving. Bingo. Ruth, my previous parishioner from Prince of Peace. Last Sunday was about what? Jesus also talked about prayer, but what kind of prayer? That was previous Sunday. Last Sunday was what kind of prayer? Prayer of petition. Petition. When you ask God how you need to ask. And this Sunday, Jesus talks about prayer with humility. Begging God for mercy. Once there was a parish priest who after the Mass was greeting his parishioners, like I do every Sunday. So he saw one guy and priest stopped him and, hey, I don't see you every Sunday. What happened to you? And he said, Father, I change churches. Each Sunday I go to a different parish. In other words, he's doing church shopping. And the priest said, why? Why do you do that? Why don't you come to this church every Sunday? He said, Father, there's a bunch of hypocrites there. I don't think there's room there. And the priest right away said, oh, there's always room for one more. And today, Jesus talks about such hypocrisy in prayer. If you notice, the first reading from the book of Sirach is a wonderful companion for us to unpack what is Jesus telling us in the gospel. Notice how the writer tells, the prayer of the lowly pierces the clouds. It does not rest till it reaches its goal. A person who is humble, a person who is lowly, when he or she prays, it even goes through the clouds, tearing them apart, reaching God. Not the prayer of a person who is proud, who is self-righteous, full of hypocrisy. And that's what Jesus gives us, the example of 2 people praying in the gospel. One was a Pharisee filled with self-righteousness, and the other one was a tax collector filled with humility. Both of them prayed, but whose prayer God heard? The prayer of the tax collector, because he was humble, he was lowly. And in the second reading, Paul, towards the end of his missionary journey, apostolic journey, he tells, now I'm getting old. I have done my part. And it tells, I'm poured out like libation. Now what is libation? Paul was a Roman, right? In the Roman culture, when they have a meal, of course, their meal was always with what? With some good wine, right? At the end of the meal, to satisfy the Roman gods, they would take a cup of wine and pour it on the ground to satisfy the gods. It's a kind of cultural tradition. So Paul compares himself like one who is truly emptied. Now, when you pour out, empty the cup, do you think anything remains in the cup? Nothing. So Paul compares himself like the cup which is totally poured out, something like what Jesus did on the cross. He totally gave himself up. In Greek it is called kenosis, giving until the last drop. It's not giving, okay, come on, take a spoonful and taste it. No. Totally libating himself. And that matches with the opening prayer we actually prayed. Pouring out, giving total love. And the opening prayer says, oh God, help us to grow in the virtues of love. Love means to give oneself totally. Faith and hope. And he says, I have kept the faith. And now he is looking forward, hopefully, to the prize that is awaiting for him. A kind of libation, totally humbling oneself. Gospel gives us the beautiful analogy of how we need to pray when we pray, with humility. We need to add proper ingredients to prayer. When you want to make pasta or you want to make tamales, you have to put what? Proper ingredients. You cannot put too much cheese, right? Otherwise it becomes a cheese.